And this morning we're continuing on with our theme of the year, which is change. And this month specifically, our theme is change freely. Change freely. And the principles that we'll be working with this morning that you can find in the back of your seat, if you'd like to read along with me, it's as a trifold titled Spiritual Principles. We'll be working with spiritual principle number 1, number 2, number 4, and number 5. We believe in God, the living spirit, almighty one. We believe in the individualization of the spirit in us. We believe that heaven is within us and that we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it. We believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete freedom from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. Change freely. What if we took the time to find out what might happen if we really let go and let God? What might happen if we really let go and let God? If we really said yes to life, to let it be what it is, and to quit trying to make it something that it ain't. And that's right, I said ain't. To let it be what it is and to quit trying to make it something that it ain't. So, if we would let go of our fears, our worry, and our doubt, what would life be like? Ernest Holmes says this about fear. He says, I'm reading Living the Science of Mind on page 378. He says, most of our fears can be traced to these unconscious attitudes of mind which rise from our repressed desires to live more abundantly and our inward sense of inferiority because we are uncertain of the future. Well, the way to get rid of fear is through the cultivation of faith. A faith founded on the thought that God is all there is. If we learn to see God in people, in circumstances and situations, we shall find him. Seek and ye shall find. When we turn in complete confidence with a simple childlike trust and faith to life itself, it will always respond to us. It doesn't matter what the history of any of our experiences may have been, or how long we may have harbored fear or resentment or doubt. In the very moment when we turn from it, it will depart from us. You see, eternity is here and now. God is everywhere. The divine spirit is in every person, and the movement of the law of good is in all human events. We alone block our good, and we alone affirm it. We alone can readjust our lives to a new way of thinking until all our patterns of thought are changed. In doing this, we shall be making the best bargain we have ever made, for we shall be swapping fear for faith, doubt for certainty, hell for heaven. It is destined that we shall do this sooner or later. So why delay the day of our freedom from fear? We believe, well, the truth is that spirituality is not black and white. It's all different colors. It takes on all different manners, all different forms, all different fashions. That's why we say that all paths lead to God. It's not black and white. Howard Thurman in Deep is the Hunger on page 69, he says, life affirmation is not possible unless we summon enough courage to make the first basic act of faith. He says, I believe that there is moral meaning at the center of life. Unfortunately, it is easily possible, much too easily possible, to make this affirmation with gusto and enthusiasm without really meaning it. Not that it is easy to be insincere, but that it is difficult really to mean it. It's difficult really to mean what we say when we say, let go and let God. Ernest Holmes says about letting God, on page 23, he says, let God do it. In this reading, he talks about the Colorado Rockies and the beautiful valleys and the fountains gushing forth from it. And he says that each fountain is supplied from this body of water, and the water that gushes through each has a pressure within itself that causes it flow upward with an irresistible force. This may be likened to our own spiritual natures. We as individuals each have our own thoughts, feelings, hopes, aspirations, and desires, and each is directly and intimately connected with the one divine life, energy, and power. Each of us is a fountain of life. There is a God pressure back of each one of us, a life force seeking outlet through our thoughts and acts. There are many fountains, many individuals, but only one God pressure back of it all. One of the most remarkable sayings of Jesus was that he himself could do no thing. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. Could we not say to each fountain up there in the Rockies that the fountain of itself could do no thing because it is merely an outlet for the pressure back of it? Let us personalize these fountains and give to each the power to block the flow of water through it. One fountain might say, well, I don't know whether there is water enough. I am not quite certain that I am an outlet for this great ocean of water. I'm not even certain that I believe there is enough pressure in it to keep it flowing. Perhaps it will stop tomorrow. Another fountain might say, I am so confused over everything. I'm so uncertain about everything. I have come to the point where I really don't know what's going to happen. And another fountain might be so filled with fear and distrust that it would block its own channel, while still another might get jealous of the other fountains and gradually come to hate them. Let us make believe that these mental attitudes of the fountains could actually stop the flow of water through them. Would that not be about the way all of us are at times? We become so frustrated with our little thoughts and fears and doubts that it makes it impossible for us to let God flow through us with the joy of life. Our problem is not with God, who is the river of life. It is not with the divine pressure that seeks to express itself through us. Our trouble is with ourselves. Our trouble is with ourselves. So in this teaching, many of us come through the doors and or already with a wealth of information, and then some of us come through the doors where we are gathering information so that we can try to make sense of this thing called life. When there's so much going on out in the world, and let's just be clear about it, there's always been a lot going on out in the world. So there's so much going on out there, there's so much going on in here, and now with technology, you can get into everybody's drama. You can get into people's drama on a whole nother continent, a whole nother island, or a whole nother planet. It's there. And so our attention then can be so outwardly and worldly, where we're so paying so much attention to what the world thinks and what the world says, that we never find out what we ourselves believe. We never find out what we believe. And so we get a little bit of information, and things start to make a little bit of sense, and we get a little bit of peace in our life, and we like it a whole lot. Things start to smooth out just a little bit for us. We start to use the principles in our life, and for some of us, what that means is we can begin to see what's possible. And that's all good. And there's one thing to consider, though, is that for most of us, we've been going through life using our reasonable, our rational, and our logical mind. And so we come here and we get some information about spirituality, and we attempt to understand spirituality with our reasoning, our rational, and our logical mind. And we attempt to apply this reason, this logic to everything. Everything. When the invitation is for us to move beyond our reasonable, our rational, and our logical mind. That's the invitation. So we start to do things like this. We start to pray before we go into the meeting. And we start to say affirmations on our ride to work. And it's holiday time. And so instead of getting caught up with the drama at mama's for dinner, we get up and go outside. We woo-saw, let them do what they doing, right? We find a little bit more peace for ourselves. We get a little bit more peace in our lives. And then we really get so full of the information, the concept, the principles, and the ideas, and we just decide, I ain't going. I ain't going over there with them people this year. But you see, there's a real difference between not going and choosing, I'm staying at home because it's what I want to do. It's subtle and it's slight, but it's a real difference. It can propel us into living freely, to really consider what it means to let go and let God. Because somewhere along the way, we might come to a crossroad. A real crossroad with the teachings and the understanding and the principles and using the principles, because we know that our reasoning mind and our logical mind and our rational mind can only take us so far. It can only do so much for us. And we start to realize that we are at choice. There comes a point where you start to realize that you are at choice. And not only are you at choice, but you start to realize that you are always at choice. And you and I, then we get to decide then how we're going to live our life. Change freely. What it really means to let go and to let God. Our founding minister, Reverend Sheila, who made her transition a few years ago now, she used to say, let your yes be a yes, and let your no be a no. And perhaps at first glance, that might seem as if she was instructing us to let our yes be a yes and a no be a no in our dealings with people outside of us. But perhaps she knew a little bit more about letting your yes be a yes and your no be a no than, I ain't gonna speak for y'all, but for myself that maybe I was ready to be present with. And maybe she was saying to me, Twana, in your effort to let go and to let God, to let your yes be a yes. And to let your no be a no. Wherever it was necessary for yes to be a yes, let it be. In your quiet time, in your contemplation, in your meditation, in your willingness to be available to move beyond your reasoning mind, your rational mind, and your logical mind, and let your no be a no when it's time to say no.